I think it's really important to take inventory on all of your friends and all of your relationships. How do you feel when you leave that person? Do you feel like you can actually share your wins? Because if you don't have friends in your life that you can share your wins, that you actually feel like they're genuinely excited for you, you got to curate an environment that's conducive to your growth.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of It Takes Grit. Get ready to get fired up and a fire lit under your booty with this week's guest, Kacia Fitzgerald of the podcast. She's just the most amazing podcast, guys. She has over 2.8 million downloads on her podcast, EmpowerHER. Kacia and I met at Chris Harder's mastermind. She fired me up. She's going to fire you up. Girl, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. Like both of us with our like hyped up energy, we're ready to just like light a fire under your booty. I'm so excited to be here, Rebecca. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we connected straight away. I was like, this girl is just buzzing around. She's dancing. She's doing some crazy shit. I was like, that's kind of me, but that's in my room. I'm dancing in my crazy shit. She's doing it actually in the mastermind room. I'm like, this girl needs to be my friend. So I was like, got to get her on the podcast. So super excited for you to be here. There's so many things going on in your life right now. You have created the most epic community of people that want to launch their own podcast. We're going to talk about. You were also in network marketing, which I'm a massive fan on, and lots of my audience are in network marketing. Yeah. And we're going to talk today. We're going to go through a couple of different subjects, but first of all, you're going to hear about Kacia's story. It's amazing, guys. You're going to feel and really believe how you can pick your ultimate cheer squad. By the way, you've got two girls right here that are hyping you up. How to get out of the way of just things that are, stopping you being the very best version of yourself, and not confusing inexperience with inability, which I stole that from your Instagram. And I'm excited to really dive into that. So first of all, tell us just in a couple of minutes, your story, who you are, and how you got to being where you are today and having a podcast with 2.8 million downloads.
I love you so much. I feel like a lot of people listening to this or watching this can connect with the idea of, I always had a gut feeling that I wanted to do something more. And I don't mean that like working in the corporate world versus being an entrepreneur, that being an entrepreneur is more. I don't mean that at all. What I mean is like, I always felt like I wasn't in alignment when I was doing the things that society told me to do. So I went to college, I got a 4-year degree. I started working in the corporate world. My background was in IT project management and engineering recruiting. My last corporate job was at Google in corporate recruiting. And I was doing all of these things and like checking all these boxes off. And I was looking around and, we often become like a byproduct of the expectations of our peer group. So I was looking at all my girlfriends and they were doing the same thing. And we were all just kind of like, and then it's Friday and then we're excited about the weekend and we're rinsing and repeating. I'm like, this feels so unaligned for me. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like back when I was a little girl, I would sell like Huckleberry jam on the street corner and like bracelets. And I've always had this like entrepreneurial spirit, but I had no idea what to do with it. I thought that an entrepreneur had to like invent something, or like, I just didn't really understand it. So I did the thing that I think was expected of me. And I just kept working my way up the corporate ladder. And I actually wasn't in a situation where it was really bad. I always had great career trajectory and great managers. I made great income, but it's this ultimate story of like going from good and going to what I knew would be more aligned and feel really great for me. So I started with network marketing back in January of 2014. And the whole point of me starting it was because I wanted to have more fulfillment. Like I had this job on paper and I knew it wasn't like lighting me up, but I was like, I don't really know what else I want to do. So let me start something on the side that could add more fulfillment into my life. Fast forward, my now fiance and I moved from Seattle, where we lived at the time, to New York City for him to go to dental school. And this side business started to really take off enough that it was able to support both of us in downtown New York City while he went through dental school. And then when he graduated 4 years later, we moved to San Diego. I started my podcast, EmpowerHER. And I'm a really big advocate of like starting things on the side. So I had this network marketing business, but I was like, what else do I want to do? And I started this podcast and I got really obsessed with podcasting. And then that helped me kind of start to build a personal brand. And then from there, I then launched a new company, which has a membership community, and I teach women how to start podcasts. Then we decided, we've been together for 12 years, my fiance and I, we decided we want to put down some roots a little bit more. Like, we're buying some land, and we just moved here to Austin, Texas, where we live with our dog. And now we're planning our wedding after 12 years together. That's kind of like the gist of it.
I love it. And what's really cool is that the news that you told me just before we got started this is that now the fiance is no longer going to be a dentist. He's actually going to be doing his own thing. So you moved all the way to New York to support him in that. And now he's not doing that anymore. But that's the great thing about life is you get to change and pivot.
And that's the thing too, Rebecca, is like, we have to normalize that you can change your mind, because I think even Sina's story, my fiance Sina's story of like going to dentistry and like having this amazing accomplishment and working so hard and teaching himself like how resilient he is and how gritty, like for sake of this podcast, he is, that I'm like, you learn so much about yourself that now you have the confidence that you actually believe in your ability to figure it out. So now you leaving dentistry actually is like so amazing, because now the world is our oyster and you can do whatever the hell you want to do. But it's because of also working through that tough season of even getting through dentistry, and me working through the tough season of supporting two people in the first time that we lived together in a tiny New York City apartment, and, you know, all the gender roles that come with that, of me supporting both of that. Like, there's so much mixed into it. And now we're just sitting here where, you know, depending upon when this podcast airs, like, he's leaving dentistry and we're going to be full-time entrepreneurs and create this crazy life. And I'm just like, holy crap, you can change your mind and you can literally do anything if you just believe that you can, and you start taking those small actions in the right direction. And that's like everything I've done this far in my career is just like one tiny little tweak and little pivot, and just trusting myself that like, I will figure this out. And the person listening to this, you will figure it out too, if you believe you will.
So you went to New York City. Guys, everybody, I just want to really understand this, that it's okay. Even Kacia went to New York City to support her boyfriend, fiance at the time, right?
Yeah.
And went through all of this. And there is no resentment. There's no like, oh my goodness, now you're switching it. Like, absolutely normalizing that. And so what I think is really important, because this is going to segue into my question for you, is how to pick your cheer squad. Because you're just cheering your fiance on. You're like, no problem. We went to New York and I built a massive business so that you could do that. No problem. Now we're moving here. Now we're moving to Austin, Texas, and it's okay. So how do you find somebody like you, who's your close friend or somebody around you who can be that cheer squad for you? How do you find your people?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Such a good question. Because what's so interesting, like in our relationship dynamic, is I've supported us financially, but like being an entrepreneur, anyone listening to this, like he was such the backbone of the emotional support that it's like both of them were so freaking important. And one wasn't more important than the other. Like, obviously we need finances to live, but like I could have never done what I did if I didn't have this person behind the scenes who was like pouring belief into me. And it's like cranking up the volume on the people. Like, I'm very intentional about the environment that I curate in my head, but also with the people around me, that I think it's really important to take inventory on all of your friends and all of your relationships. How do you feel when you leave that person? Do you feel like you can actually share your wins? Because if you don't have friends in your life that you can share your wins, that you actually feel like they're genuinely excited for you, you got to curate an environment that's conducive to your growth. So for me, I'm like, I can make friends with anyone, but like who I let in and get close with are the people that I genuinely am like, I want to root for you, but you also want to root for me. And I want to be interesting, but I also really want to be interested in what you're doing and being the type of friend that I want to see. So it's something that like is so underutilized, of like actually taking inventory and finding those people that you feel like genuinely want to root for you, that you want to have this like deep connection with, that you can share the parts that aren't sexy, right? Like not just your highs, but like when you're really, really struggling, like even having just like a tight knit circle that you can go to and be like, I'm really struggling with this. I need your opinion on this, but also knowing that they know they can come to you too, because it's that mutual conversation. And I think sometimes we get caught up with the expectations that we place on people based off of like specific roles that they have, right? Like how a mom should act, how a sister should act, how a significant other should act. When it's like the finger that we often want to point at other people, what I'm getting really damn good at doing is I take it, I point it back at myself, and I'm like, hold on, what can I own here? Am I pouring into them, and do I know what they're excited about? Or am I expecting them to get excited for me when I'm not sharing that enthusiasm? So like the people that I'm closest to and my biggest like hype squad, and like why you and I even connected so much, because I'm like, how can we like support each other? Like, I'm so excited to connect with you. We were both so genuine about it that like you instantly feel the connection when you can feel if it's real, right? So take inventory on the people that are around you and create more distance from the people that like when you leave them, you just feel like drained, like your energy is just like sucked out of your soul. Like I cannot have people around me like that if I want to live this life that I'm obsessed with. So I take inventory often on those people for sure.
Yeah. And I think when people start a new business, especially network marketing, they start something new and then they're excited, right? They've just found the person who they relate to. They're like, oh my goodness, I want to do this as well. And then all of a sudden they just turn to the side, they go and tell one person and they don't have that same enthusiasm. How did you deal with that at the beginning? What would you tell somebody who is starting a network marketing company? Because we all know it has this bad reputation for whatever reason. And what would you say to that person to be like, you know what? Just go for it anyway.
Yeah. I would double down so freaking hard on why you want to do this and who you're most excited to serve. Because when you know who you're here for, you can drown out the noise a little bit and just remind yourself that every single, like network marketing is the most beautiful business because it's built off of these tiny little things that are easy to do, but are also easy not to do. And every single time that you show up and you're keeping a promise to yourself, you're building up that confidence bucket. So what happens in network marketing is the beginning part is so hard because people don't understand it. And we expect that people are going to understand how excited we are, but they don't know because they're not in it. So it's like, can I explain to the people that are close to me why I'm excited about this? And then from that, it's still knowing that it is your job to believe in yourself. So how are you going to get that rock solid belief in yourself? You're going to just take it day by day, but you're going to really dive into why am I doing this? Who's going to benefit as a byproduct? What can my life look like if I keep going with this? Right? Like who's going to be negatively impacted if I don't? And I always live with the shoulda, woulda, coulda, or wonder what would have happened if I would have done this. And you try and smush down this feeling that's telling you want to go do something or you want to start this business or you want to grow this, right? So it's like, number one, I think it's really just like understanding that it's your job, number one, to believe in yourself. So how are you actually going to do that? You're going to have a really strong why that makes you emotional. You're going to know who you're really here for, because when you feel like you're talking to people that you're like, these are my people, like this is who I'm here for, this is the problem that I'm most excited to solve, and you build that connection, it's like addicting because you're just talking to people you're excited about. And I see that sometimes network marketing has this stigma because there's like no barrier to entry. Anyone can do it. But to do it really well in a way that like you're excited about it and people connect with you is when you figure out like, who am I most excited to serve with this? And who, like, what problem am I most excited to fix? So when you have people that don't get it, but your belief in yourself is strong enough, you have to just understand that it's just going to take putting your reps in. It's going to be so much harder at the beginning because you don't have any proof to say like, see, this worked out. You're just at the beginning, you feel like you're pushing this like monster truck tire up a hill. You're like, ugh, this sucks. And you're like ugly crying and your snot and your mascara is like getting in your mouth. And you're like, ugh, I want to quit. And people don't get it. So it's like going back to, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? And then knowing every single day that you show up and do those tiny little things that are really easy to do and really easy not to do, but you choose to do them, you're building confidence. And when you build confidence, it's not that you won't care what people think. You're just going to really care what you think most. And then you're unstoppable. And then you can build whatever the hell you want. Your network marketing business, you can start other things. You can do all sorts of things because you just believe in this rock solid confidence. I could never do what I'm doing today had I not started with being a really scared, like baby, starting my network marketing business, posting, being like, is anyone gonna like my photo? Like, what do people think about me? Like, if I didn't start there, I wouldn't even have the confidence to go do all of the other things that I've done since then. So it's an amazing gift of a business.
It really is. It teaches you the skills. It gives you the product already to really utilize whatever else that you want to do. It's like using it as the driving seat to do some other things in your life. So I love that. And one thing that people get scared of when they're first starting, and the start part of anything is the most challenging. Of course, when you start to make money, it's rolling in. You don't get upset when somebody says no. You actually laugh. Like I laugh now when somebody says, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore." I'm like, "You're crazy." Okay, whatever. But at the beginning, it would like be like, "Oh my God, it's about me." Like, "Oh my God, it's so personal." What do you feel like when people say, I just don't want to be too much. I don't want to be too much out there. Because by the way, if you're ever feeling like that, go check out this girl's Instagram because it's all of the much and all the things. And I freaking love it. And she's dancing around and doing all the stuff. So how do you get over that fear of like being silly on camera? Because you are fun and entertaining to watch, but you're silly.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly think that at one point I was like, I just don't want to get to the end and just have lived somebody else's life. Like, I'm like, I just don't want to get to the end and have regrets. And I feel like if I don't live full out with the gifts that I was given, including the flaws that I was given, the quirkiness, the like the high vibe, like energy all over the place, like, why was I given these gifts? I truly believe to my core that every single person is given unique gifts, and it's our responsibility to get out of our own damn way and share them with the world. So I think I was gifted this like just pure enthusiasm and like almost like childlike wonder with the world, that I'm like, if I'm given that, it's my job to share that. So some people aren't going to vibe with me, but some people wouldn't vibe with me even if I just played like I was like playing yogurt and I had no personality. People won't like me anyway. No matter what you do, people aren't going to like you. So I'd rather, at least if people aren't going to like me, I'd rather they not like me for me just being me, rather than they don't like the person that I'm pretending to be. You know, it just like, I just want a fulfilled life. Like, I want to feel excited about my Tuesdays and my Thursdays. Like, I just want to feel like, you know, we don't know how many days that we have here. So I just want to feel like I actually get to show up and have the full expression of myself, because I know that that also gives other people permission to be their fully expressed version of themselves. And if we could all do that a little bit more, clap for each other being more ourselves, can you imagine like what the world would feel like, and all of the heaviness that's going on in the world? Like, how much of that would be lifted if we were just like, you do you, I'm gonna do me, I'm gonna clap for you, you clap for me, like, let's go. Like, I just want to be what I don't think we see a lot of, right? So I'm always really attracted to people that are just really transparent, really themselves, and you can see through the BS anyway. There's a lot of carefully curated BS out there. You can tell the people that are faking it. So just don't be that person. Be you.
Yeah, just be yourself. It's way easier too.
It's so much easier.
A lot easier in the long run. It's a lot hard to pop this, this persona for such a long time. So you've just created a new company. I was super excited because today when I was looking on your Instagram, stalking through, like I was being one of the stalkers, I was scrolling back. I saw this before and after photo. You had this idea of a new company in an airport, and then you took action. And
Yeah.
I don't have that part in my brain that has the thinking. I think literally it was taken out somewhere. I have an idea and I do it. There's that no bit in my brain that goes, what about, is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? I'm just like, oh, let's just do it. But a lot of times that first step is so challenging because we want it to be perfect. We want the perfect logo. We want the perfect name. We want all of that. How would you help someone get started just by not worrying too much about the details? Because you're not super detailed. You just go.
Oh yeah. I mean, we so connect on that, because to me, I think about like this idea of perfectionism, of like waiting until everything's perfect, waiting until we feel ready, waiting until we're like it's all aligned. But in reality, like, number one, perfect is completely up to interpretation. So it's not going to be perfect for anyone ever. And I just think about how much time we waste waiting on perfection, and how many people that could be impacted as a byproduct of you getting out of your own way and actually going for it. So for me, I think what's been a huge contributor to the success that I've seen in like my community and with my podcast, even early on, is like, I just wanted it to be a come with me versus look at me. And a lot of people wait until it's perfectly polished, thinking that that's going to exempt them from criticism. It's not going to. No matter what you do, no matter how long you wait, people are going to have things that they want to say. So if you want to have more rootability and you want to take people along on the journey with you, you're going to have to start before you're ready, and you're going to have to be way more honest about it. And so for me, I'm like, if I come up with an idea, I'm going to share it, and I'm going to take people along on the journey. I'm going to say, this is what I'm doing. Does anyone have feedback? I'm going. This is where I'm going. Come watch me. Like, come on board the train, or you can just wait until whatever you feel ready. But I'm ready right now, because I think that we just need more examples, because it's really hard to be what you can't see. So we need a lot of examples of people that are willing to just go for it and not being so afraid of judgment, because there's no way to avoid it anyways. So think about like the idea that you have on your heart right now that you've been sitting on for a long time. It's like, play it out to the worst case scenario. The absolute worst case scenario, you're not going to die. You're not going to die if you do that thing, right? Maybe someone doesn't like your business idea, or someone doesn't listen to your podcast. Like, nothing's going to happen. But what if you get to the end and you never did that thing because you waited for next month and then next month and then next year, and all of a sudden 10 years have passed, and now you've had this idea in your heart for the whole time, and all of the fulfillment and joy that you've robbed yourself of because you waited to feel ready? Like, I would never want that for anyone. So I've decided, if there needs to be more representations of people that are just going for it, I'm going to be that, because I'm going to tell you, it's a hell of a lot more fun to just start and get rootability from people, because you're like, I'm just figuring it out as I go. Like, people want to root for you that way, right? They feel like they're part of it. So I just think you're just going to have to, it's always going to be hard at the beginning. You're always going to suck, and then you're going to get a little bit better, and then you're going to get good. And then if you keep showing up consistently, then you're going to get great. And then it gets really fun, but you can't ever get there unless you start when you suck. And no matter how long you wait, you still suck at the beginning. So just rip the Band-Aid.
And exactly. And bringing people on the journey with you from the beginning, like showing what you're doing. There's a girl, she's a great fitness trainer, and she also does a lot of design work, and she shows, this was my first yoga mat, this is now my sports bra. Like, she shows the journey, and you never look at that and go, oh, why is she doing it that way? You're like, oh my God, this is really nice. I feel included. Like, I'm included in what she's doing. She cares about my opinion. And when I first started my network marketing business, all I did was I shared my results. I shared what I was eating. I shared what I was exercising. I just shared my journey. And that invited people to be like, oh, well, if she can do it, I can do it too. I didn't have this website. There was, in fact, my website was one landing page. It was a landing page. You put your name and your email, and I was cold calling everybody. Like, that's how I found my clients. But it was one website, and now we've got a website with an app, and there's a podcast, and there's all this other stuff. But it started off with like one shitty landing page that wasn't a cute photo of me, right? And that's all it was. But I think it's so important what you said. It's like, have fun having this idea and putting it out there, and don't worry. And to be honest, so many people have got their own shit going on. They're too bothered with what they've got going on. Really care too much about what you're doing.
Isn't that so funny? We think that people are thinking about us all the time, but I'm like, people are thinking about themselves. That's just human nature. They're actually not worried about what you're doing, but you're so worried about what Sally Sue 293 on Instagram, or this random girl that you knew in 3rd grade. I'm like, she doesn't care what you're doing, right? So just do your thing. I hear you.
I love it. That's so funny. So that's one perfect segue into what I want to ask here. Is I read this on your Instagram, is that you're not getting confused with like inexperience and inability, because at the beginning, everybody's shit. Everybody doesn't know what they're doing. So it doesn't mean to say that you don't have the ability to do it. It's just that you're not experienced yet. What was your very first podcast like? Tell us what that first podcast was like. What was your microphone?
So my first podcast, I was sweaty in every place that you can be sweaty in. And I used to do these like really dramatic pauses because I didn't really understand how to podcast. So I would do these like pauses to try and emphasize like something. And then it would be dead air, which is so awkward on a podcast, because then you like look at your phone and you're like, is this thing still on? Right. And I just remember thinking I had to like have it so much more together. Like, I had to be more concise, and I needed to like I just sound a lot more polished at the beginning because I was trying so hard that I wasn't cranking up the volume on being me. And when it really started to take off is when I was like, no, I am not going to be what I think I should be. I'm going to be myself, fully transparently myself. And then it's like people just started to root for it because I wasn't trying to be perfect, because nobody connects with that anyways. But at first, I just remember it would take me so much longer to think of ideas. I just wasn't confident because I hadn't put my reps in. And it's interesting because we know not to compare ourselves to other people. We still do it, but we know not to do that. But I think it's also a really important reminder not to compare yourself to a different version of you in a different role that maybe you crushed it at, right? So like, I was crushing it in network marketing, but I had never podcasted before. Some of the skills are transferable, but it just took me time to get better and more confident at podcasting because I just didn't use those skill sets, right? So it's like reminding yourself that if you are starting something new, that it's like, even if you had success in one thing, some of those skills might be transferable, but you don't get to skip the beginning no matter what you do. Even if it's just anything that's brand new, no matter how successful you've been in something else. And it's like reminding myself that of like, okay, I expect that this journey is going to be like, I'm going to feel a little uncomfortable at first because it's new. And then I'm going to feel a little bit less uncomfortable, but I'm committed to falling in love with the process rather than what the process can produce. Where I'm like, I just want to love the hell out of podcasting. And if millions of downloads come as a byproduct, awesome. That's definitely a goal, but I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on like, how can I get good at loving this? Because that enthusiasm is so contagious. And that's the secret sauce, right?
We often compare ourselves to like someone who's been doing something for longer than us. Now, if I went in and was being a Spanish teacher, hell no. Like I do not like speaking one word in another language. It would be terrible. But someone coming into my network marketing team is going to be like, oh my goodness, her poster all beautifully done and created and she's got her shit together. Well, that's 8 years of being on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? So you can't compare yourself to where somebody's at, but just remember, if that person was in your position, you're working for a corporate company, you work for Google, you're a teacher, you're a dentist, like I wouldn't have a clue what to do with any of those.
So true.
Like dentistry, I'd be like, I don't know. How many times do you brush your teeth a day? That's like,
You'd be like, 2 thumbs up. All right.
I'm like, right. They look good. I mean, they say they're brushing their teeth, so I think that we're good on that one, right?
That's such a good reminder for people though, is like, it's so easy because you also don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what type of team they have, what type of help they have. You don't know, like, you just don't know, and you're never going to know. So if you're going to compare yourself to other people, look at them as proof of what's possible, but also know you don't know the full story, right? So just keep doing you. And that's where you're going to see the success, which comes on the other end of consistency, and just put in your reps in and doing your time. And then you also get to feel so proud, right? Because isn't it so interesting that, and you have people probably that tell you this all the time, where they want like their fitness results right away. They want it like yesterday. We live in this Amazon Prime culture, but it's like, if you got everything that you wanted tomorrow, you wouldn't actually feel excited because you wouldn't feel like you earned it. And then you wouldn't have the habits and the mindset to actually keep it, which is so huge. So sorry, random tangent, but I just think that's such an important thing to remind ourselves of, the comparison aspect, especially on social media.
No, I love it. And I was actually just thinking about my first podcast that I did. So I remember videoing myself, but I'm not looking at the camera. I don't know why. I'm sharing my big story. It's like my first podcast. I'm sharing my big story about how I got to the USA. And I'm sat down on the floor with my legs out. I have my headphone on, but I'm like adjusted this way. And you can see my whole body. In fact, I've got to get it out because it's hilarious. And I remember one of my team who was working for me at the time, they were like, I don't think that many podcasts are done like that. They're typically looking at the camera. And I'm like, oh, okay, good to know for next time. And it's literally me sitting on the floor, like looking out at the distance, like talking to nobody. And there's a camera on me. So,
and the thing about it too, is because you have that, you go share that with other people. Like, think how inspiring that's going to be for someone to be like, that is how she started, and look at where she's at now. And like, now she knows to actually look at the camera. Like, she has come a long freaking way. And that there's a chair. Oh my gosh, that was genius.
Now I sit on a chair and I look at the camera. I mean, it's just amazing.
Woo-hoo! Crushing it. Let's go, girl.
Take a curtsy right here. I feel like I need to take a curtsy. Oh my goodness, amazing. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. What's the thing that you're most excited about for 2021?
I'm excited. So when I started my company, She Goes, back in January of 2020, I wanted it to be an events company. So we started planning events. A couple months in, I was like, curveball. Okay. So I'm excited for in-person connection when that can start happening again. I'm excited to see like how things keep developing, because that's the coolest thing, is because of the network marketing background and because of all of these pivots that we've made and moves that we've made and things that I've done, where I've just been willing to try things on and be like, do I like this? Do I not like this? That I just feel so confident right now that no matter what idea I come up with, like, I'm going to try it out, and it's either going to be awesome and I'm going to love it and I'm going to keep going, or I'm going to get feedback and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. So I'm excited for 2021 of being this like big experiential year where I'm just like trying a crap ton of things out, and some things are just not working, and I just get to say, on to the next thing, because of the confidence that I've built, that I'm at this season now where I'm like, let's freaking go. And just to help as many women as I can along the way, like really get obsessed with the process of whatever it is that they're doing, rather than wishing away their days, even if they're working on a side hustle while in a corporate job that they don't love. Like, I just want to be like, how can you love this more? How can you reframe your perspective on it? And also helping a crap ton of women start podcasts, because only 20% of women are podcasters of all the podcasters. So we need to just move in and just infiltrate a little more.
Wow, I like that. That's the moment. Go, we're coming in. We're coming in.
We're coming in. Watch out.
Slide. Here we go. Oh my goodness. I love it. Where can everybody find you? All the things, plug everything you got for everybody.
Yes. If you love podcasts, which you do because you're listening to this one, come check me out at Empower Her Podcast. It's every Monday and Thursday. And then my favorite social media platform is Instagram. It's just Kacia, Kacia.Fitzgerald. And yeah, come find me if you ever listen to the podcast. Tag me. I always answer all my DMs. I love hearing what's going on. And of course, let me know what you think of this episode. And Rebecca, I love you. I love you, girl.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you in a couple of months' time. It's going to be amazing. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you go over to all of Kacia's stuff. You give her a follow, all the things, lots and lots of love there. Thank you for watching this week's episode of It Takes Grit. My name's Rebecca Louise, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.